Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, good people. My name is Manuel from YouTube Best. Welcome back. Today, I'll be bringing you yet another interesting but shocking news from the Senate as crisis arises in the Senate as lawmaker clashes over Buhari's $22.7 billion loan request, and also as the Senate approves this loan request. But before we get into that, I would like you to click on the subscription button if you have not done that yet, and also remember to ring the bell to get notified each time we publish a new interesting news update. News headlines. Headline 1. Crisis in Senate as lawmakers clashes over Buhari's $22.7 billion loan request. News headline 2. Senate approves Buhari's borrowing plan of $22.7 billion. Sub-headlines read: There was disagreement in the Senate over the President's Buhari foreign loan of $22.7 billion. The upper chamber on Tuesday, March 5th, started discussion on the external borrowing request. The Senate majority and minority leaders are of the opinion that the report be considered part by part. The news body reads: The disagreement broke out at the floor of the Nigerian Senate on Tuesday, March 5th, after deliberations on the $22.7 billion external borrowing request by President Muhammadu Buhari. Clifford Odia, the chairman of the committee who read out the report, suggested that the lawmakers approve the foreign loan request. However, the decision to deliberate behind closed doors sparked a back and forth argument for over half an hour between lawmakers and the Senate President Ahmed Lawan. Abdullahi Yahaya and Enyinaya Abaribe, the majority and minority leaders of the upper chamber, suggested that the report be considered part by part to allow the senator understand the detail of the bill. The Nigerian Senate has started deliberating on the $22.7 billion externally borrowing request by President Muhammadu Buhari. Though no reason was given over the rejection of the loan at that time, there had been concern over the state of Nigeria's internal and external borrowing. In a related development, Nigerian government have secured a loan of 805 billion naira, equivalent to $2.2 billion from the World Bank in a bid to resolve economic problems that some analysts believe have impaired the growth of the country. The loan was approved by 6 projects to support human capital and economic development in Nigeria this year. Suban Kaduri, World Bank Country Director for Nigeria, in a statement said, World Bank is ramping up its support to Nigeria in its effort to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. News headline 2 reads: The Senate finally approves Buhari borrowing plan of $22.7 billion. The news body reads: The Senate on Thursday approved the 2016 to 2018 external borrowing plan to the tune of $22.7 billion to be spent by the federal government to execute key infrastructural projects. The approval of the Senate was sequel to the consideration of the report of the Committee on Local and Foreign Debt by the chairman, Senator Clifford Odia, People's Democratic Party (PDP), Edo Central. When confusion trailed the consideration of the report, the lawmakers were forced into an executive session at 12:40 p.m. and came out at 1:30 p.m. Soon after the section, the President of the Senate, Senator Ahmed Lawan, read the recommendations and it was passed. Recall that prior to the executive session, there was confusion after the presentation of the report by Senator Clifford Odia. After the presentation, the President of the Senate, Senator Ahmed Lawan, has insisted that the lawmakers should go to the recommendations and vote. This did not go down well with the minority leader, Senator Enyinnaya Abaribe, PDP, Abia South, who raised it that there must be a line-by-line consideration of the report and the recommendations before the voting process. The chamber became tense as the debate was now between Lawan and Abaribe. There was sharp disagreement between them against the backdrop that while the President of the Senate wants an outright approval of the loan, the minority vehemently kicked against it. To save the situation, Senator Gabriel Suzwan, PDP Benue, asked that Senate should go into an executive session for 10 minutes where those knot issues of lopsided allocation of projects would be resolved. But the President of the Senate rejected the call for a closed section, stressing that this would have happened prior to the plenary section, adding, "We are at the point of no return." This did not go down well with Abaribe as he stood up to speak again, where he was cited Order 14C of the Senate Standing Order as amended. Lawan now made a U-turn on his position and now called for a closed-door section. They now entered into a closed-door section at 12:40. Recall that the President Muhammadu Buhari had on November 28 written to the Senate, again requesting for the approval of 2016 to 2018 external borrowing to the tune of $30 billion to be spent by the federal government in executive key infrastructural projects across the country. The letter, which was added by November 26, 2019, was read on the floor of the Red Chamber by the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, during the plenary. In the letter, President Buhari explained that it became imperative to represent the request because the 8th National Assembly approved only a part of the external borrowing request forwarded to it in September 2006. Here are some comments and reactions from some citizens. From one objectivity view, he says, "The game is scratch our back and we scratch yours. Support our illegitimate allowance and we support your senseless borrowing. And anything you want, including looting, security votes, roga, killer headsmen, senseless feeding allowance, and other forms of looting with self-styled integrity." Another from Holy Wahala, he says, "Buhari, Tanko, and Lawan consist of the tripod of evil in Nigeria today. The troll which destroyed Nigeria beyond recognition and restructuring. Senselessly approving a mammoth loan with line item classification regard. Which project the money will be used to fund is outright insane. Where in the world does a bank manager grant loan without wanting to scrutinize the proposal for which the loan is sought? This by far is the most wasteful and clueless government in the history of mankind." That is it on our news today. What do you think about the 22.7 billion, not million, 22.7 billion US dollar loan? What do you think? For me, I'm afraid, let it not be that the government is secretly selling Nigeria off for another colonial era. Because the way things are going, the loan we are acquiring, it is too much a weight in Nigeria. Nigeria have grown above being called a corrupt country. Nigeria itself now is corruption. How will a leader of such high esteem give a request of such huge amount of money and say it's for infrastructure? You didn't break it down to the Senate. You didn't even tell them this is what we are using this money for. This and this is what we are using this money for. These are the loopholes we have in our country. Just say we should approve this bill because we need it for infrastructure. I'm sorry for people who keep approving such loan without thinking. If they don't live to pay up, I think their children will. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching. Remember to like and share. Once again, this is Manuel from YouTube Best signing out.